Hello and welcome to the Storytelling for the Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Kanata, and this is the place we talk about all things expressive writing and other creative techniques, all with a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer thrown in. Buckle up and enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of the Storytelling for the Soul podcast. I always appreciate your time, and if you find yourself here, I'm guessing that you may very well find yourself at a little bit of a crossroads in your life. So this can look completely different for different people, but I will say it's obviously perfectly normal. I think the longer that you've lived and had life experiences, the more likely it is that you will encounter crossroads in your life. And as I said, it may look different for different people. So you might either find yourself at a distinct point where you need to make a decision. Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Or perhaps you feel stuck and as though you're not really being presented with any clear ways forward, and you just don't know what to do. And if that's you, hey, I have been there many times in my life, as we all have. I think these feelings are just part of the human experience. And often I feel like how often we pay attention to these thoughts, feelings, sensations that might be surfacing in our body depends on our life circumstances. So I'm someone who is single, I don't have any kids. That obviously means that I very likely have more time on my hands than, say, a busy mum of 3 who's juggling family life, work, or their business, and so on. So I think however your life looks, at some point you're going to experience these crossroads, whether they feel a little bit less out of the blue, like me, simply because I have more time for things like personal development, self-reflection, journaling, meditation, the whole lot. Or maybe you're just being hit with this thunderbolt as an extremely busy person in the 3 seconds that you might have to yourself every single day, that something has to change. Or maybe it's just a feeling that something isn't quite right, or you're not feeling at all fulfilled with your day-to-day life. And trust me, you're not alone. I hear this all the time in my one-on-one sessions. This is actually why most people come to see me and have embodied writing or an embodied journaling session with me, or engage in my 3-month program. And I do typically work with women 35 plus who are juggling a bunch of things in their life. So it's typically, it looks like kids, whether it's teenagers or kids that are a little bit younger, work, or quite often it's business owners, or even potentially more complicated than that, work and also juggling a side hustle. And then, of course, family. So whether that's a partner, elderly parents who might need more and more of your help as they are getting more mature. And look, your situation could have a blend of what I've just said, or you might only have one or two of these things happening at the moment. But either way, you feel like you're at a crossroad and you're not quite sure what to do. So if this is you, what I suggest you do is take some time out for yourself. 5-10 minutes is all you need. I do suggest daily, but if you can only manage a couple of times a week, depending upon your life situation, start with what you can actually manage. There's no point in setting yourself up for failure here. This needs to be sustainable. And just take this time to journal whatever is on your mind without any censorship, without any judgment. The whole goal here is to actually get you connected with what you're actually feeling. Because here's the thing, most people who come to see me, and I was very much this person once upon a time, we just go about our daily lives going through the motions. We mostly live life on repeat. Every now and again we hit a weekend and things might change slightly. But for so many people, their life is dictated by routine. They've got to have the kids at school by this time. They've got to be at work by this time. Got to pick up the kids after school at this time, take them to sports at that time, dinner at this time, and so on. I could go on forever. And it's really easy when your life looks like that to just simply go through the motions. And for so many of us, our coping mechanism for the fact that we don't have any time for ourselves, or even just time to do things that we enjoy and that fill our cups, is to basically disassociate from our body, which means we're there in theory, we're not there in spirit, and we can't really feel anything that's happening in our bodies. And the only time that we tend to feel something is when something is really, really wrong. And like I said, I was exactly this person. So this podcast comes with no judgment. So please take some time aside to engage in embodied journaling and embodied writing. And the embodied component comes in because as you are writing these things, I'd like you to see what's happening in your body, if anything. And for a large portion of people, nothing at all happens in their body. And if you are feeling like you're becoming overwhelmed, please stop. I am an embodied processing practitioner. So embodied processing is a body-based approach to working with trauma. And as part of my work, I teach something called resourcing, which is basically finding safety, connection, support. If none of these words resonate with you, just think about the opposite of overwhelm. And we can find this in a few different ways. Everyone's resource tends to be different. So it could be for you something like a pet, a memory, a place. It can be absolutely anything. A color, even something completely imagined that brings you those senses of comfort, safety, joy, or just the opposite of overwhelm. And you want the resource handy just in case you are feeling tipped into overwhelm. That's a sign from your nervous system that all is not okay and to stop writing. And as you write, what I'd like to do as the days and weeks roll on is to look at your writing and see what patterns you're noticing. So what's constantly energizing you and what's constantly draining you. Now, to share a little bit about my own personal experience with this, I very much found myself at a crossroads in my business last year. So up until this year, I've had a monthly low-cost membership model. People have certainly subscribed to that over the last 12 months. The problem and the sticking point for me is that I have transparency in the website backend around what people are actually doing. And I very quickly figured out that even if people were spending the money each month on themselves, they weren't actually engaging in any of the work. So I was spending a bunch of time creating these resources, so courses, workbooks based around specific topics like anxiety, around the holiday season, so on, and no one was doing any of the work. And this doesn't sit right with me. It never did. And if I'm honest with myself, I was probably never sold on the membership model working for this work that I do, because like I touched on earlier, resourcing is a massive component of the work that I do, and having connection with someone else, I don't think you can ever really replace that inside a membership. I feel like there is a big one-on-one component to this work. So those feelings around the membership had been bubbling away for quite some time, and due to other commitments, so I also work full-time, and last year was a really hectic year at work. We had an event that I want to say for like the second half of last year, I really just had not much time for myself, and honestly not the headspace to actually reconsider what I was doing with storytelling for the soul. But once the event was done and dusted, I knew that action was needed, and I made the call to basically take down the membership and go back to old school. So now my office suite looks like individual one-on-one sessions. That gives people a taste for the work, and it also gives me the opportunity to have a really good solid understanding if my 3-month program might work for them. The second option is the 3-month program, as I mentioned. And then the third option is a low-cost subscription service that basically gives people a little bit of theory every month. So I do talk about the resourcing because as far as I'm concerned, that is foundational to all healing. Healing cannot happen without safety. That's just reality. And then as part of the subscription, people also get journal prompts for the month. So that was a pretty big decision to give up on the membership, because reality is, if you're in business, this is how I certainly feel anyway. I have pivoted so many times, and every single time that I pivot, I feel like I'm starting over. And in a way I am, but in a way I'm not. Because yes, I am starting over because obviously I need to spread the word of mouth about a whole different product or offering suite, services suite. But in another way, I've also got all of the other experience that I've amassed over the last 10 years in business. And yes, 2025 is my 10th year in business, not in storytelling for the soul. This is my 3rd business all up, but it is a milestone year, and I'm still here. I'm still trying. I am still going because I genuinely know that I have something worthwhile to offer people. So if you find yourself at a crossroads as you are listening to this, please don't give up. Please invest in some self-care and some time to yourself, and don't just jump to the next shiny object. Take your time and allow things to unfold from you. And consider if you're getting messages from the universe. You can use another word if that resonates better with you. Maybe you've been getting messages, but you just haven't been listening. So take some time out. Don't feel the need to rush into anything. But I will leave you with this. If you want your life to be different in 2025 than it was in 2024, that's not just going to happen. You have to actually take steps to make that happen. I'm going to leave you there. If you want to check out more regarding my work, so embodied journaling, embodied writing, and other body-based approaches to working with the nervous system, you can head over to my website, sarahkanata.com. Sarah is spelled S-A-R-A-H. Kanata is C-A-N-N-A-T-A. You are always very welcome to send me an email. I always love hearing from listeners. My email is just info@sarahkanata.com, same spelling as what I referred to earlier, and I will speak with you next week.